You are listening to the Cattle Call podcast. This is the place where computer-aided design and drafting meets humor and practicality, with a touch of business acumen thrown in for fun. Jim and Rocco, the owners of Zentech Consultants, the premier U.S. technology consulting firm for architecture, engineering, construction, and manufacturing, discuss the fascinating world of CAD with some humor and some honesty. The Cattle Call podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the premiere episode of the Cattle Call. And yes, I know it's a silly sounding statement, Rocco, but I just like the way that it sounds when I say cattle call instead of just cattle call. That sounds dull. So my name is Jim.
You're not going to start mooing, are you?
Well, no, we have a little sound effect that does that for us, which is even better. But I will if you ask. So I am Jim Coppinger, one of the owners and founders of Zentech Consultants, and I'm here today with my partner, Rocco Parisi. Rocco, say hello to all the nice people.
Hello, nice people.
There you go. Good man. I like it when he gets my jokes. That's why I made him my partner. So today we're going to be talking, as we do every week, we're going to be talking about what's going on in the computer-aided design and drafting world and some of the related industries in terms of construction, architecture, etc., and what's going on in the world today, and just have an ongoing discussion about all the things that we think are important to our clients and to ourselves as business owners. And today's topic, we're going to kick off here our premiere episode. We're going to be talking about subscription licenses and whether they are a benefit or whether they are a burden to our client base. Right? Because this is really one of the biggest talking points we run across a lot. I mean, particularly Rocco, you run the sales end of things here. So you talk to the clients all the time. And what kind of feedback do you get from folks in terms of subscription licensing versus the perpetual desktop licenses?
I think that it really depends upon the size of the firm. I think larger firms are more adapt, more willing to move to that subscription and annual model. I think they've realized that Autodesk in particular has kind of pushed them in that direction, and they're accepting it. But the smaller firms that struggle with costs, they still prefer that perpetual model with annual maintenance.
Okay. All right. So just so we make sure that everybody's on the same page as they're listening to us here today, why don't you explain to me what is the difference between a perpetual license and an annual subscription?
Yeah, so a perpetual license, you buy the license once and you own it for life, for as long as you can run it on your system. With a system like BricsCAD, you have the option of annual maintenance. It seems like Autodesk pretty much requires you at this point to have the annual maintenance. So that's the structure for perpetual licenses, but with the annual subscription cost, you renew the license from year to year, and that option is available by both partners that we primarily work with Autodesk and with BricsCAD, and you renew that license every year. And if you don't renew the license, you don't have access to the software anymore. So right. Again, going back to the perpetual license, you buy it, you own it, you use it for life.
Right, and that's really the big sticking point, I think, that I see talking to people. They start to resent the fact that they are forced into, number one, paying that annual subscription, but more importantly, I find that a lot of people are really annoyed that they're forced to upgrade every year because those annual subscription licenses are forcing people onto the latest version, right? You can't. I think there's like a 1 year back. Am I correct on that you can use the previous year's version as long as you're under the maintained subscription?
Yeah, as far as I understand, yes.
Okay. But a lot of people don't like that, right? That it used to be that you could buy the software and the software was working great and it was doing everything that you needed and you could keep it for 4 or 5 years, right? And then when you saw a really good upgrade, right? They put in some nice major benefits for it. Then you could spring for the extra money and either buy a new license or, like you were saying, right? If you're working with an annual maintenance package, which was pretty common as little as 5 years ago, that you could just go in, you'd buy Autodesk software or whatever you were working with, and then you would pay an annual maintenance fee and each year you would have access to every new release, but you didn't have to upgrade. You could upgrade only when you felt it was going to, directly benefit your company and give you the tools that you really thought would benefit you. Right? And like I said, I think that's where a lot of people have really had a lot of difficulty accepting this transition. And I mean, let's be fair. It's really kind of the way the software industry has gone. It's not just Autodesk. I mean, we're in the CAD world, right? And Autodesk is a big player. So for us, we're going to talk a lot about Autodesk and how they're handling things, right? And some of the newer players who are kind of coming on and kind of taking a chunk of that market share from Autodesk in terms of, like you said, BricsCAD, who we work with. But everybody's doing it. I mean, the concept of the software as a service, right, is a wonderful new idea, or at least they tell us it's a wonderful new idea. Microsoft does it, and Adobe does it, and every major player, Bluebeam. It doesn't matter what software we're using. More and more, that's becoming the standard pricing model for software companies, right? Where you have to be on a recurring subscription. You have to upgrade that software every year. And what I find is that they give you the reasons to switch, right? And they tell you, well, it's great that you can go in, and the benefit to the consumer is that you can budget annually. You know exactly how much it's going to cost year to year. There are no surprise fees. You don't hit that, every couple of years. We weren't expecting we'd have to spend, $50,000 this year to upgrade all of our software. That's an unexpected expense. And I think that argument holds a little better for those larger companies, right? I mean, most small to medium-sized design firms really aren't built that way. Yeah, if you're a mega engineering firm and you've got 40 offices across the U.S. and 2,000 employees, yeah, you're working with annual budgets and departmental budgeting structures, and that can be a benefit. And I think that's why they adapt to it a little bit better. But when you're, Joe the architect, and you got yourself and 3 other guys, that's not how you work, right? You would rather just hold on to those 5 licenses for a few years and not have to pay and that large annual subscription. That's how I see that working. Is that kind of the feedback you've been seeing?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's why we're seeing an increase in interest for BricsCAD. A lot of smaller firms like that perpetual license with the option of annual maintenance, right, versus being forced into it.
Yeah. And that's actually kind of how we originally got involved with BricsCAD, right? Is that we started off, our background for decades, both of us, right, has been in that Autodesk structure, and coming across and working here with Zentech and seeing that there was a lot of resentment, right? So we went looking for a package that could kind of balance that. And the other thing I think that's really interesting, and again, I'm going to slam Autodesk a little bit here, and I don't mean to keep beating up on them because they do provide an absolutely wonderful system. I mean, look, the world runs on Autodesk products, right? The design world, they're the kings for a good reason. They do put out really powerful products. But, one of the things that they really pushed as part of the reason for, going to the subscription model is that on the consumer end, right, what you're getting is what they call, they even have it on their website, they call it, greater access. You can enjoy, the latest innovations, the latest technologies. We give you great new tools, every year. And that really has not turned out to be the case. And again, not just with Autodesk, with most of these software as a service packages, that what you're getting very often is nothing more than compatibility upgrades and maybe some new, dark mode presentations and 1 or 2 what used to be termed fixes, that they're billing now as new features, and to take Autodesk and compare it against BricsCAD. One of the big things why we're seeing such a big push in that direction is, like you said, number one, the licensing structure, and the fact that with BricsCAD people can, get that perpetual license and just pay their annual maintenance and upgrade when it's effective for them. But I think the bigger thing there is that a lot of these software as a service pricing models, because they have to give you a new update every year, right? They're required to give you an update in order to justify that annual licensing fee. They're just throwing minimal changes into these software packages in order to say, well, we did add things, right? We did something to justify why we're charging you, X $1,000 each year. But I see that things like, AutoCAD in particular is a great example of a software package that really has not, in my opinion, seen a major functionality upgrade in 5 years. I mean, AutoCAD is essentially, a forgotten child of the Autodesk world. I know it's just base 2D drafting, and their focus nowadays is on BIM and 3D modeling and the Fusion side of things, which is, great. Those are great tools. But 90% of the design world still works in 2D at some level. And you have a system like AutoCAD where there hasn't been any kind of a really effective upgrade to it. And on the other side here, you have BricsCAD, who do an extensive amount of work in the 2D side. I mean, they've got all the 3D BIM functionality. They've got mechanical manufacturing, 3D BIM modeling, all built in, which is fantastic. But I think one of the things that I really love about it, and what people really like about it, is that part of that perpetual model is that they're continuing to upgrade. And I always kind of liken this. You know me. I like to put in analogies, all right, or similes. I can never tell the difference between the two. I'm just not that smart of a guy. But I look at it like it's kind of like the difference between when you're renting out your house versus when you're selling your house. Listen, when you're renting and you're just getting recurring revenue, hey, you'll slap a coat of paint on once a year if you feel like, all right, just to keep them happy and keep them paying rent, I'm going to throw some paint on and I'll mow the lawn once a month. Versus when you're selling your house, right? When there's a big investment to be made, right? They bring in landscapers, they get professional painters, they redo the cabinets, they, clean the windows. You put a lot more effort into it when you've got that big price tag associated. And I think that's the same way, right? That these companies are looking at it in terms of they're renting the software for a year, and they don't put in the level of effort that they would put in as when they're selling that software.
Right.
And I think that's a lot of the concern, that you're getting these bigger companies like Autodesk and Microsoft and so on, who are just giving these recurring minor upgrades, that look good, that let them give some speaking points, and they're not putting in the level of effort that they used to, right? When it used to be every they'd come out releases every year, but each release had to have major changes, because most people are really only, traditionally, the average update time frame for most softwares, particularly in the CAD and design world, was 3 to 4 years. People would maintain their annual maintenance, but they'd go from, I remember, in Autodesk, and I started way back in when they were releases before they were version, way back in the late 80s. But it was very common for people to at least skip every other upgrade, right? Everybody would call it the the even number curse, or the odd number curse rather, and they would skip every other upgrade from Autodesk, and you'd only upgrade like every third year.
Yeah, and there are still are firms that do that. Not many of them, but I still run into firms that do that.
Yeah. Listen, I always felt it was a real cost-effective way to work, because by every third release there had been major changes, right? Because like I said, you were buying, and CAD software is not cheap, by any stretch. But when you're buying that software, they really have to provide you some type of benefit, versus, like I said, just a fresh coat of paint, so to speak. And by, 3 of those, there was a whole new way of working that would have a dramatic impact on your bottom line. And that's when people would upgrade. That worked out really, really well. And I think at the end of the day, it really comes down to they try and all the software companies try and tell us that hey, this is for your benefit. We're giving you like I said, greater access to the new tools. You get flexible control. You can better manage users. You can cancel licenses when they're done. The part of that they don't tell you is that if you do need to add it, well, you have to buy it all over again. They're not prorating that for you. That you get all of these valuable insights to evaluate and analyze and product usage. But at the end of the day, when you break it down and you look at any of these, SaaS, I guess is how it's pronounced, the software as a service, the SaaS, right? Any of these programs, right? And again, my opinion, that the people who are actually seeing the benefit here are just the software companies, right? We, the end users, are not getting that. Our client base is not getting that benefit. All right, you know what, Rocco? Before we move on with that topic, I just want to take a quick break. I think it's a good place to bring in the sponsor of today's program. So we'll be back in just a second. right, so we wanted to talk to you guys today about BricsCAD, which is the latest and greatest 2D and 3D CAD software to hit the market. And we here at Zentech Consultants are the U.S. premier sales partner for the BricsCAD platform. The great thing about BricsCAD, or what I really love about it, is that it allows you to do both 2D and 3D BIM drafting all in one single system. And that's great stuff, right, Rocco?
That's right.
There you go. So for those of you who are interested, want to learn more about BricsCAD and how you can apply it and you can use it to actively work on your current drawing files. It's one of the beauties about it is that it works in the native DWG format and it has almost all the exact same commands, even down to the first letter keyboard commands that you guys all love to use in your current Autodesk products. All right, so you can do everything that you need in one single system with the commands, the features, the functions that you already know. All right, not only that, but when it comes to pricing, there's huge benefits with BricsCAD. What do you think, Rocco?
Absolutely.
Okay, so give us an idea. What are we talking about in terms of price when we're working with BricsCAD?
Well, you can get you can reach out to zentechconsultants.net for all the kind of a breakdown of the options and or email sales at zentechconsultants.net and we can get back to you. But in general, you can start as low as a couple $100 for BricsCAD Classic for a perpetual license with all in maintenance, or it's as low as a few $1,000s for the BricsCAD Platinum or BIM or BricsCAD Mechanical packages.
Sounds good. We hope to hear from you guys. Just to throw some numbers out here, I just did a little quick research yesterday. Going back to, I guess it was around like 2016, 2017 when Autodesk first came out with that subscription-based model. That about right?
Yeah.
So, I was looking at their numbers, right? And I went back and took a look at, what the base AutoCAD perpetual licensing was back for the 2017 release. Just AutoCAD, it was $38.95. Right? You bought it, and that's what you paid. You were done, and you had it. You could use it forever. Versus today, right? The annual for that is $16.10 thereabouts. It's got some change attached to it. Right? But if you think about that, you're talking about across that normal 3-year upgrade path, right? $1,600 times 3 years, it's like $4,800. Right, that you're paying for that 3-year span. So right there, right, it's another $1,000 that Autodesk made, right? And if you go to the 4-year, right, it's even more. It's almost double. So the idea that this was done for our benefit and that it brings a lot of benefit to the CAD world, I don't see that as being true. And I think that's why we've seen a lot of pushback from clients, particularly in the CAD world. Where they're just feeling like they're being, I hate to say this word, but they're being blackmailed by the software companies, right? And they're forcing them to just pay them year over year over year with very little benefit to the end user. It's a monopolistic approach where these large software companies control the software, and the answer is like, look, we created it, we own it, and if you want to use it, you're going to pay whatever we tell you to pay.
I can't disagree with you on that. It's funny. I take calls sometimes, and I have to hear people just go off on rants, and I can't argue with them. I have to listen to them, and because they're right. It's hard to fight that argument.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that's why I think there's been a huge growth in the market, right? And I think listen, it's still small. Like I said, there are the giants. In every industry, right? They all have their software giants, whether it's Autodesk or Microsoft or Adobe or whoever it might be. Those giants are all using this software subscription model, but you're seeing more and more that there are these smaller third-party firms who are making massive inroads. Right? And so we keep bringing up BricsCAD, and in all fairness, so everybody listening knows we are BricsCAD resellers, right? So we do have a horse in that race, but we also do a lot with Autodesk as well. But on the BricsCAD side, they've really made a name for themselves. Number one, in that they've got, an absolutely identical package to AutoCAD. I mean, it literally works in the standard, AutoCAD DWG file. It uses all the same templates, all the same commands, everything, right? People can switch to BricsCAD without literally any training, right? They can just pick it up, open BricsCAD, and go to work just like they're working in AutoCAD. But the big thing there is that it's got that perpetual licensing model with the annual subscription. Right? That people can go and say, look, I can buy BricsCAD today, and if I don't like the tools they added in the next release, I ignore it. If I don't like the ones they add in the one after that, I ignore it. 3 releases from now, they came out with some new tools, and they say, hey, that's really amazing. That'll save us a lot of time. Now I'll go to my upgrade. Right? That's when you're, like I said, providing actual benefit to the end user and letting them decide when and where they want to do it. I mean, and again, even a company like BricsCAD, they offer that the option of a subscription model, right? So there are companies, like I said, who do like it. They like that annual budgeting. They like knowing exactly what it's going to cost them. They like the fact that they can only buy, a couple of licenses, and if it doesn't work out, just let them expire and do whatever is best for them. There are people who like that annual subscription model, right? And they offer that as an option. And I think that's the key. I don't think that you'd see as much anger and resistance to this as we're seeing in the CAD world if those larger firms would simply offer the option. New licenses, you have no option. If you need new licenses, you can only get the subscription model. And yes, there are some legacy programs where if you had older licenses and you maintained them under maintenance, they're still letting you continue to upgrade and maintain those. But the cost of those have just risen to the point where it's actually less money to get onto the subscription model than it is to just pay the new maintenance fees. And I think that's a bad business approach, and I think that they've opened the door, these large software manufacturers, they've dramatically opened the door to bring in all of these, really active smaller firms who are, like I said, not only offering that better pricing model, but because they're smaller and they're hungrier and they're, not kind of resting on their own laurels and just trying to bring in money, they're actively adding new functionality to these CAD packages that's really just kind of staggering. I mean, like I said, just the idea that, when you're dealing with like an Autodesk product, right? If you're doing like a 3D BIM model, you have to have, Revit or, Inventor, one of those third-party packages, which are very expensive verticals that you have to buy, 3 or 4 systems, and you have to train people on 3 or 4 different systems, and they're different file types. And that's kind of the business model that these larger software firms have developed. And these smaller guys are going the opposite route, and they're looking at simplifying. Right? Like in BricsCAD, I can actually do all of my 3D BIM modeling, all of my full 3D model for buildings and designing manufacturing parts and sheet metal, etc., all in a basic DWG file. I can do both the 2D and the 3D CAD all in one. And I think that's the big thing that's going on. That these large monopolistic companies have just gotten to the point where, because they own 85 to 90% of the market, they're charging what they want, and they're able to add in only functions that they think will enhance their market shares rather than add functionality to their end users.
Yeah.
So that I think is a big concern. And listen, it works. I get it. I mean, the other thing I looked at yesterday, I was like, if you take a look at, at the end of 2017, 2016, 2017, if you look at the Autodesk stock price was, hovering around the mid 50s, it was like $55 to $58 a share, versus, the stock price this morning is $157.50. Right? They've tripled their profit line in just 3 years using the subscription model. So, I mean, I get it. It's a massive benefit to those companies, but one of the things, like I said, that we try to practice what we preach here at Zentech, right? You and I are always big, with all of our staff about client service, right? And making sure that whatever we do, it has to benefit our clients. Otherwise, they're not going to be our clients for very long. And I think that when these software firms allow themselves to get caught into the recurring loop of, profit for profit's sake, and they're looking at the bottom line, and they're letting the accountants, right, and the director of income, or whatever the C-level title is for that, they're letting these guys make these decisions based on numbers purely, and no one's looking at what happens when our clients are frustrated, annoyed, or being taken advantage of, and simply stop using our software in favor of something new, competitive, with better features. And I think that's, it's a self-defeating prophecy almost. They get themselves caught into that loop.
Now, you handle the technical side things here at Zentech. what do you see from a deployment standpoint? User training. How does that come into play here? Do you find that users are happy to upgrade every year, or do you find that they have a tough time adjusting if they wait a couple years? What do you?
I find that users are generally pretty ticked off about having to do this annual upgrade. And really, what I have seen from a practical standpoint, what I see a lot of companies doing is reverting back to that old model of only upgrading every couple of years. Because, the thing that the software companies never look at is, the cost and the time that goes into training and updating, reinstalling, having to do custom tools, having to show your people all the new product lines. That's a huge drain on any kind of a CAD or design firm, right? We don't operate on the largest profit margins on the planet to begin with, and taking a week or 2 weeks of downtime as we're trying to get everybody upgraded, the new releases installed, training people, showing them where the new products are, always finding some kind of a hiccup or a glitch in a process that used to work fine, and in the new release they didn't consider that, and that doesn't work anymore, and to have to do that every single year. People have just stopped doing it. So really, in a lot of these companies, what I'm seeing from the tech side is that they're paying those annual subscription fees and still operating on the older software for as long as they can. I mean, like I said, it's usually 1 year. I think that you can go and you can operate the previous year's version so long as you pay this year's subscription fee. So basically, the idea that, you'll save money and always have the latest and greatest, that's not applying in any way, because they're paying for the 2020 version, but they're still using 2019, and they will all the way through 2021 until they're forced to upgrade to the next version, and they're staying at least a release behind. Because
there's also the fact that there's not all of their the companies they work with, so you have to be in line with what your colleagues are working with as well on a particular project.
Right. Yeah, that's really important. The amount of time and effort that has to go into that backwards compatibility, right? And again, that's actually one of the things where a lot of these larger companies like Autodesk will tell you, well, that's the benefit of forcing everybody into subscription. This way, everybody's on the same model. Well, yeah, they're not. Like I said, there are still people out there who are maintaining their old perpetual license structures and paying those exorbitant maintenance fees from those large companies, just so they can continue to use the 2015 version that they have been for years that works best for them. And I get it. They're trying to make sure, hey, all companies want profit. I mean, you and I run our company. We want profit. We want to be multi-billionaires and retire to Bermuda with our own private islands. That would be lovely.
Well, I already am.
Well, you see, I knew you were making more than me. I hate that. So unfair. So, shh, my wife might hear you, man. Don't say that. But yeah, I mean that I get profit. Profit is king, right? We're a capitalist nation. We're here to make money. That's why you run a business. That's why you start a business. So I don't begrudge these software companies who want to maximize your profit, but I just think it's very short term thinking. You can maximize profit without alienating your customer base, and I think that's important. And I think that's really been overlooked. Like I said, not just in the CAD world, but in the software industry as a whole. I really do think there's a major flaw in their thinking there. There's just no benefit that I can find to having all of these, constant upgrades, constant training, other than it helps the bottom line. You can triple your stock share when you're a major software company in 3 years, which looks great for the CEOs and all of the other executives in the board. That doesn't help any of your client base. And I think long term, that's where you wind up damaging yourself. I think long term, you wind up with people simply leaving to go to newer, better, more customer-friendly based systems. I think that's the way that it works.
All right.
So, So that I think that kind of covers from our end here. Unless there's anything else you want to discuss here today in terms of the perpetual licensing.
No, I think I'm good.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I think that covers what we wanted to talk about here today. Like I said, the takeaway from this is, it is what it is, right? We have to pay what we have to pay. We've got to get our our designs done. We've got to get our parts modeled. We've got to get our BIM done. But, long term, like I said, we're just seeing that more and more folks are moving away from those major companies and into more of these user-friendly packages. So, all right. So with that, I think we can kind of wind our way here out of our initial episode of the Cattle Call. Yes, I did it again. And yes, I will play a cow sound effect at the end. Just because I can, and it makes people happy. The cow sounds really good. Look, here you go. Ready? There you go. It's a beautiful sound. So we got the cow sound, and it makes Rocco happy. And with that, I want to thank you guys for joining us today. Hope you enjoyed our premiere episode. And we're going to pick up with our next episode, and it's going to be 2D CAD. Is it dead or is it growing? What's going on in the 2D CAD world? So we'll see you guys then. Until then, thanks for joining. Have a great day, everybody. All right, everybody. Today's Cattle Call was brought to you courtesy of Zentech Consultants. That's Rocco and I. Zentech Consultants works with design and manufacturing firms to help our clients purchase and implement the software that they need in these complex industries. We provide a single point of contact for clients to buy, develop, and learn the most vital software systems for your specific needs. Zentech strives to be your trusted technology partner from your initial needs all the way through long-term support and training for your entire staff. So Rocco, why don't you tell them how to reach out to Zentech?
All right, yeah, you can reach out to us through zentechconsultants.net. You can email us at sales@zentechconsultants.net, or you can even call us, 866-824-4459.
Excellent. We look forward to hearing from you all.